The number one thing that's going to change your life, the only thing that will change your life, change your business, change your money, change your relationship, is you must raise your standard. Now, I know that sounds boring, stupid, basic, but it's the truth. The only thing that changes our life long term is when we raise our standards. What does that mean? That sounds so boring and dumb. It means that all of us in life have things we want. We don't get what we want. We get what we have to have. Remember I said earlier, we all get what we tolerate in ourselves and other people. But when you're no longer willing to tolerate something, that's when your life changes. The difference in people is their standards, period. The difference in people is their standards, period. And what do I mean by standards? Everyone in the world has a list of things they think they should do. I should lose weight. I should work out. I should spend more time with my kids. I should work harder. I should make more calls. I should. And then you know what? People don't do their shoulds, and they get mad at themselves, and they what I call should all over themselves. They beat themselves up about it. What changes people is when your should becomes a must. When suddenly the thing you said should happen has to happen. That's when human beings change. It's like if you want to take the island and you're the head of the army and you want to take the island, the most powerful way to take the island is burn the boats. Because if there's no way to go back, it's amazing what happens when it's a must to do something versus a should. That's what makes human beings succeed.
Because here's what leaders really do. They maximize resources. A leader can come into an organization that's totally torn up in horrible shape, take the same resources, take it to another level. Your body, your mind, your emotion, but you can't maximize it when you're trying to fit in. You can't maximize it when you live by everybody else's rules. I'm not saying don't be respectful. I'm just saying as a leader, you got to decide what you believe is right. And one thing I can tell you will always feel right. To never settle for less than you can be, do, share, or give. That'll feel right as long as you're inside your life here. Whoa, yes. So question, how do you build muscle? Because what we want to leave here with is not some just positive attitude BS. We don't want to just leave here with some materials we wrote in our books. We want to leave here with a different sense of identity, strength, and muscle. I don't just mean just physical muscle, I mean emotional muscle. Because think about how do you build a muscle? What do you do? No. Exercising a muscle is how you keep it. If you don't use it, you lose it. Faith unused, faith unemployed does not grow. It diminishes, true? Courage that's inside of you, that after a while you don't use your courage, you don't make yourself do it. The courage muscle doesn't get bigger, it gets smaller. Passion between a couple, you're so busy and you're so tired, unexpressed, after a while, that passion dwindles, sometimes moves to seemingly nothing for people that really do love each other. But what's happened is they just haven't used the muscle. It's so weak, it's like, where would we even start? Right? That process happens in all human beings, and the emotional muscles are the one that shape every leader in every part of this world. Because everything that's happening in this world is an emotional game. 911 was an emotional game. 12 guys took down a $5 trillion economy for a few days, shut down the air transport system, and put the word terrorism, fear, and uncertainty into 255 million Americans. I don't support it, but one thing drove it: emotion. It wasn't intellect. They used their intellect to its maximum capacity for bad, for destruction, from our perception. Certainly mine, you'd probably agree with me. But on the other hand, there are a group of people that are on a plane who use that same emotion to get themselves from a place of total fear to saying the phrase, let's roll. And those people, Todd Beamer, those people there, those people use that emotion to give their lives also, but to protect life. Protect what probably would hit the White House. to change that piece. Those people put their lives on the line because they activated the emotion. They didn't sit there emotionally unfit, hanging out in their chairs hoping or worrying or fearing just for themselves. They figured out there's something we got to do, and we're going to do it now. Muscle, emotional muscle, that's what will change your life. 80% of success in life, 80% of achievement in business, 80% of almost anything that matters in your life is psychology, and 20% is mechanics. How to get fit physically is not that complex. There are a million classes, courses, programs, elements, internet elements. There's a gym on every corner. There's a trainer anywhere nearby. How to do it, the mechanics is not that complex. So how come the vast majority of people on this planet, I should say, vast majority of Americans, not the planet, because most people don't have enough money to be like people here, we're the most obese nation in the history of the world. We're physically fat because we're emotionally fat. Because what it takes is will. People tell me all the time, diet and exercise, you have a great life. That's a two-legged stool. It won't stand. You need the third element. The third leg is emotional fitness, psychological strength, the capacity to drive yourself to do what doesn't feel good initially but feels incredible long-term. That's what we're going to do here. The bottom line is, if leaders get results, and most people don't get results, most people tell us a story, don't they? If you don't get the result, if people don't achieve their goal, they don't get the result, why don't they achieve it? What do most people tell us? What have we even said at times, if we're honest? You didn't achieve the goal, you didn't achieve your dream, you didn't achieve this thing. We as a company didn't do it because what? What's the reason people give? Tell me. We don't have the, okay, we didn't have the money. What else? Tell me. Oh, we didn't have the time. I didn't have enough time to achieve it. We don't have the resource. We don't have the people resource. Okay, we don't have the people. We don't have the computers. We don't have the technology. We don't have the tools. We don't have the right plan. We don't have a plan. My boss sucks. If it wasn't for my boss, we would have made it happen. Wrong leadership. Wrong management. What else? Oh, because our people are too old. We don't have enough youth. So if you put them up on the screen here, people say things like, I don't have time, we don't have the money, we don't have the technology, energy, not enough resource, we don't have the quality of leadership, we don't know the right people, we don't have the network, I don't have the education. That's why. Whenever people fail to achieve their goals 99.9% of the time, and you ask them why, they'll tell you it's because of a lack of resources. That's what all these things are. I didn't have the support, right? I didn't have the money, we didn't have the time, we didn't have this, we didn't have that. There's a resource that people believe is missing. And that resource, belief structure, then keeps people from ever being able to really lead. Because what leaders do is they find a way to maximize whatever resources they have, as little as they may be, and they don't believe in limited resources. I'll give you an example. Let's take a business example to start with. In 1974, a guy named Sam Walton had built his little company up. He came up with an idea. He started with $20,000 in, I think, 1962, if I remember right. But by 1974, within 12 years, he had 78 stores. And you know how he did it? In the middle of the night, he'd drive across the border, and he'd go and study other people's stores. He'd buy everything the cheapest he could in the middle of the night. He'd go to other people's stores. Whatever was working, he figured out. Success leaves clues. He came back and did it in his store. Whatever was working in any store, in any competitor, anywhere he could do it, he did it. So he figured out how to maximize the little resources he had, his 20,000, built 78 stores, and if you read any of the people following him, the company had gone public in that year, they were all saying, this is it. He's maximized his resources. I mean, he only has so much money, there's only so many cities that are going to appeal to this discounting mentality, right? This is it, this is all he can do. And the word on Wall Street was, sell. Now what's interesting is, at that time, you look at Sears and Kmart, and they were gargantuan companies, weren't they? 20, 30, 40, 50 times, 100 times his size or more, probably. And at that time, they were the leaders, and they knew what's going to happen. But did things change, yes or no? Did he suddenly get mass amounts of capital? No. Here's what they didn't understand. Sam Walton now, or the Walton organization, Walmart, is the most successful retailing operation on earth. And when you talk about Bill Gates being the richest man in the world, that's only true because Sam's fortune is divided up amongst a bunch of different family members. You put them together, they dwarf Bill Gates. Sam Walton did this. How did he do it? What people underestimated is that this guy could go to 4,400 stores, do $250 billion. Where's Kmart today? And they've been shrinking. All of them have been shrinking. And he's the dominant force on earth. Here's the thing he understood. Resources are interesting, but the ultimate resources are the feelings of emotion that make you resourceful. Think of it this way. Resourcefulness is the ultimate resource. What do I mean? What are the emotions that make all this possible? What's the fuel that takes an idea from being in your head where you intellectually know what to do? How many have had an idea, for example, was a great idea, you're excited about it, and then you didn't do anything. One day, there you saw it on the shelf, you saw it somewhere, someone stole your idea. How many have had this happen? Say, I. The only difference between you and that person was not that they had more resources, they were more resourceful. What are the ultimate resources? They're emotions like vision. Creativity is a...
Yes.
One of the things I wanted to ask you, like on the first day, is you said, like to my friend over here, you got to lead your people. You got to learn enough about the job that you hate and then lead them. And what I wanted to ask you is, well, being sort of on the front lines of things, how do you actually, or what are your ideas on leadership? And you gave some examples today. Like, for example, you sort of come up with the plan, and then you ask the questions. So that's one strategy.
That's only one part, yes.
I was wondering if you could share maybe 2 or 3 more.
Sure, I'll be happy to. My number one belief about leadership is you're a servant. Here's what I mean specifically. The word hero, that is in the archetype of like men and you and I bet. Is it true that inside of you, you really want to be the best, you want to create the best, share the best, do the best? Is that a metaphor for you in your life?
Absolutely.
Yeah, me too. So I think people in this room tend to have that as their metaphor. So all of us at some level, man or woman wants to be a hero. The word hero in its Latin root means servo. Servo means servant. It actually means slave. The hero, why they're the hero, is become the ultimate servant to something larger than themselves. People and so forth. The person who thinks they're going to lead by demand or by position can only lead for a short period of time. But the person whose idea of serving is, my belief is, if you can find a way to take any group of people and help them to experience their needs at a richer, deeper level than anyone else, then together you guys can get anything done. Anything. Now, it may not work the first time, but together you can get to that point. Because needs are ultimately what we're after. We're not after the vehicle we think we're after. You want $1 billion, then you get it. I got plenty of clients, and I will tell you, it is not the end game. And so then they go after their second billion. Or you think it's getting married, and then you get it, and you find out it's not the end game. There's certain needs that have to be there, and the ultimate needs are growing and giving. Because you only can feel so good filled up by yourself. So my core belief is, I gotta serve. If I serve, I can lead. Because I believe motive does matter. If my motive is just to get you to do something for me, there's a certain amount of power that I can get to do that if I strategize, if I think, if I feel, and also if it serves a greater good, even if I don't intend it. If the bumblebee goes to try to get the nectar it wants, its selfish goal, I believe there's a higher power that guides it all. And when that bumblebee goes, it doesn't intend to give anything but pollen sticks to its legs. As it goes about trying to get what it wants, that's how flowers are created. I really believe that everything has a web of connection. If your intent is to serve yourself, you're still going to serve something more than yourself, and you're going to get a certain amount of insight. If your intent and your motive is to serve something, yourself, but also something more, just your kids, then I believe you get a different level of insight. And because you're serving more of what serves life. It's not just me. It's me and my family. If you're trying to serve a community, I believe you get a different level of insight. If you're trying to serve humanity, you get a different level of insight. I get emotional thinking about it because this is why I do what I do. So when someone stands up, it's not about business, it's not about anything, but about serving them. So I will use abrasive or creative language. I'll use whatever it takes, humor, stupidity. I'll make fun of myself. I'll challenge. I'll do anything to serve. That's why I'm here. I don't need to do that anymore, but I love to see someone free and alive and lit up. So when that's your motive, no matter how people perceive you on the outside, if they're around you long enough, you can't hide what your real motive is. And they'll see it and they'll feel it. Motive does matter. If it's to serve something higher, it'll be there. That doesn't mean you don't get served too. And in business, you got to be served. Or I used to do business and I lose money in the business and everybody else was happy. And it was wonderful, except I had no business. So it's, killing the goose that lays the golden eggs. So I've learned to put that balance in. But that gives me power. That's why time disappears for me. Because I'm not about getting some action done. I'm about the outcome. Question.
You know, we talked about, you know, the economy being real rough going forward, but you've given so much of yourself, and I can see it, and the passion behind these people about teaching these really important business principles, that I'm confident that it's going to be a lot shorter to come out of this recession.
Thank you so much. My honor. Thank you.
Give him a hand. What makes you a leader is your ability to make a decision. Who's with me on this, right? And anybody can make the easy decision, right? So what makes you a leader is you can make the tough decisions. And what makes you a leader is you make the decision. What makes you a great leader is, you know, I may be wrong, but if I have to wait till everything's resolved, nothing's going to get resolved. So I'm going to make a decision. If I make a decision and it's wrong, I'll find out quicker than if I sit on the fence while my life goes by. I remember I've shared this with maybe a few of you before, but years and years ago when we had the big Gulf War, General, Norman Schwarzkopf's a friend of mine who passed away a few years ago, and I used to bring him in to talk about leadership. And one of the first times I ever asked him, I said, how do you define leadership? You know, how do you know when a person's really a leader? And he said, when they can make decisions. And he said, I can remember when he was an assistant to a general, and I forget what the exact position is, but he said he was responsible for reading all the briefs. And this general is one of the highest generals in the Army, and there was a decision that needed to be made and had to do with 10 years of going back and forth with the Pentagon, trying to figure out if they're going to go one direction or another. It was a gigantic decision that was going to affect the way the Army was structured, how money was going to be divided, what resources are going to go where. And he said they brought in this group of 20 people in, and they had this 2-hour meeting, and everybody got up and pitched their side of what they thought was right. And at the end, when it was completely done, the general said, has everyone said their piece? He said, yes. He said, do this. It was plan A or plan B, whatever it was, out of the 3 choices they had. And everybody said, okay, General, saluted him and ran off to go implement this thing. And Schwarzkopf said he was freaking out because he knew there's no way that general could have read everything even he'd read. And this was such a complex piece, and there was only 2 hours, and everybody gave their best. But, oh, my God, there's so many things to consider. And so he finally got up enough courage, he said, to go to the general and said, General, so he said, permission to speak freely. He said, speak freely. He said, General, there is so much information here, and there's so much here, and no one's really going to know for sure. How the hell could you just make that decision like that? He said, because someone had to make it. He said, because it's been going around for 10 years back and forth and no one being able to make a decision. And he said, what if you're wrong? He said, if I'm wrong, we'll find out quicker. And if I'm right, the job will be done. Next question. Right? It's like when you're put in charge, take command.